when you're going through a really big shift, they all come up at once. But when you're unaware, which is like, let's say, when you're crossing the street and you're just crossing without looking left or right, it can seem so personal that those things are happening to you. Like, why me? And it's so normal. That's why I like to share those things too, because it's like, oh, no, your feelings are valid. Like, this is how we've been programmed in our society, in our generations, our families. But once you are aware, it's like you're looking left and right before you cross the street. And it just makes things so much easier, and you just get to enjoy and get more excited about things that are happening in your life, opposed to just feeling like it's all downhill, you know?
Hi guys, welcome back to Fast Foundations, the podcast. It's your girl Jess Bergio with another episode featuring one of our past alumni here to share with you their experiences in the mastermind. But also, it's been such a treat because so many of these past alumni I've gotten the opportunity to hang out with, talk to, work with, get to know. And Anita is no different. She is a girl who is after my own heart. We come from a similar background, and she's got some amazing stories to share with us today. So Anita, welcome to the show.
Hello, I'm so grateful to be here.
I know, it's so fun. Like, literally, her and I could just talk about all the things for so long. But I'm excited to share you with the listeners today because you not only made a huge pivot in what you're coaching and teaching on now with your business. I've got to watch it from like the very beginning, which is so cool. And that's what I love to share on this podcast, because a lot of times we see someone's like now and we're like, oh, how do we get there? And we don't get to hear or see the behind the scenes of like day one, or let's even go back before there was a day one where you and I were like, who am I to be part of a mastermind like that with those people? Because we're not one of them. We had all those stories, and I know you did, and you worked through so much of that stuff, and you now teach it to people so that they can get out of their own way and manifest the life and make the kind of money that they want. So take us back to where you were before you discovered Fast Foundations to Mastermind.
Yeah, honestly, it was so crazy because it was right before the pandemic, like literally right before the pandemic. And I had been listening to Chris Harder for, I think, maybe 2 years. Yes. So I started listening when I was in Virginia. And at the time that I started listening, I was just somebody who just had a lot of ideas, but I was always working multiple jobs, and like I never had enough money. I owed people money. My bank accounts were negative. Debt collectors called me like every single day, and I just had a really bad relationship with money. And so once I started to become conscious of this, and when I say I became conscious, I mean that it like hit me like a ton of bricks that something had to change.
Yep.
And once I got to that point is when I started to, again, be more open, because there was a lot of people along the way who always wanted to help me, especially because I was starting my makeup business. I was going to school, I was driving for Postmates. But I just really wasn't receptive to any of the information that they were giving me. And then, again, when I became open and I started listening to podcasts and listening to people who were in places where I want to be, is when I also started attracting those people in my like vortex in my life. And so that was when I was in Virginia. And so me making the move to San Diego was so scary. Like, it was like the biggest thing I've ever done. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything like lined up, but my twin sister was getting stationed there in the military. So it was like such an easy, I guess, transition for me if I were to go with her. So I didn't have a job. I literally am driving there, listening to podcasts for like 12 hours straight. And I got a job as I was driving. Yeah, as I was driving, I got a job in San Diego. And I just started to become really, I turned this new leaf. I said, when I get there, I'm going to go all in. I don't care how much money it takes. I don't care what I got to do. I don't care who I have to meet. Like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I want to put that like in the beginning of the story, because I feel like that was a really big pivotal point when I made that decision, when my external world started to move and shake to match that. So when I got there, I think I got there in September. And so I was kind of like vacation for the first couple months. And then when the new year came around in January, that's when I started hearing Chris talk about the mastermind. And I was like, oh, and I just kept like thinking about it, but I wasn't sure if it was for me or, it's probably too late to join. There's just too many like things that were going on in my mind. And so when I again made the decision, I was like, I'm going to go to this mastermind. And my external world started shaking. Like my car broke down. Just like a lot of, I don't like to say that they're negative things, but challenges came up when I said that. I like to think of it as just not a test, but a lesson of learning that that's what happens when you are saying you're going to do something and follow through with it. And it's just a matter of learning that. So,
Well, and when you say that, like, the universe sometimes throws challenges at you to see how bad you really want it, because we can say we've made a decision on something, but how quickly can one little thing take you out of that decision? It can, because shit happens all the time. Like, but if you're in a better financial situation or if life's a little bit different and your car breaks down, it's not a big deal. You're like, no problem, get it fixed. No problem, call a tow truck. So it's when those things happen when you're at a crossroads between this or that versus a situation where you're getting to do all the things and nothing really affects you because you either have the means or you're not in that same place anymore. So I just want to touch on that because I feel like a lot of people think all they have to do is make that decision and then things happen. But you have to be so rooted, right, in your decision that no matter what happens, I'm still going to do the thing I said was going to be the next on my list, which was the mastermind for you. So sorry. And I want to touch on too, share with everybody what your job was when you came to San Diego, because you weren't doing what you were doing before when you were in Virginia, were you?
So in Virginia, like I said, I had multiple jobs. I was bartending. I was starting my makeup business. So I did have makeup clientele, but it wasn't like to a place where, it was enough to support me fully. So I was doing Postmates. And then when I got there, I started freelancing for another bridal company. And it was so funny because they manifested me. They needed somebody who was available, who had my experience, who went to school. And so when I got there, again, it was just like a lot of like one thing after another, like opportunities. And then like it was different than what I thought I was going to be doing, because I thought I was going to be bartending because that was what was safe for me. But doing makeup is what I really wanted to do. So when that manifested, oh my gosh, I was just so stoked. And it gave me the opportunity and the belief that I could do that too.
Yeah.
So when I made the decision that I was going to join, I started seeing the angel numbers, which I've seen angel numbers a lot. 111, 222, 333. You look at the clock or there's license plate in front of you. And I remember I was talking to my mom on the phone and we would just kind of chat about it and we'd get excited about it. And I was like, oh, Mom, it's 333 when you called me. And then she's like, oh, my like stove was off. And it says 444 her time because we were different time changes. And then the license plate in front of me said 7777. Like,
oh, wow.
all in one moment. And this is when I was telling her that I wanted to join the mastermind. So that was just like my confirmation that this is the right step. This is the right step. But I was so nervous that like my body physically, it made me feel like I was going to throw up. It made me feel like it was way too soon. I'm not at a certain part in my career yet, or financial, or just like identifying as a coach or anything within that group, right? I was just like a makeup artist at the time. So, and then Chris is the one who messaged me and he sent me a DM. And when he sent me a DM, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to listen to it. I was so nervous because I knew, again, it was more confirmation that it was the right step for me. So then the next part in my decision was to get the money. And so that was the part where like a lot of, where I really had to challenge myself in that moment and just see, okay, if I did have the money, would I go? Yes. That's all I needed to know in that moment, make that decision. And then from there, look at all of the possibilities. If I really, really needed it, how could I get it? And that's when things started to move and shake with the money too.
Right. And that was the first time you proved it to yourself in that sort of way that like you could figure it out, and that if need be, like you were willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And I feel like that's something you coach and teach you like extensively now. You always talk about that, and you always give that analogy. Like if you were given $1 million right now, like what would you do with it? If money wasn't an issue, like where would you invest? Where would you spend your time? Like what would you be doing? And I think a lot of times people don't even give themselves the opportunity to dream about those things or think about what they would really want, because they're so stuck in like what has to get done,
Sure.
versus like what they would be doing if they could. So that's a really big deal. And I think a huge part of your story of how not only you did it for yourself, but then now, you went through the mastermind, you learned all the things. And in that space, like, wasn't it just so amazing to kind of be around all those people that kind of poured into you and saw the strengths that you had, and just kind of they bring out all the good stuff in you, right? It's like you kind of maybe sometimes show up like, who am I to be in this room? And then you realize quickly like, oh, I do have a lot of skills, and I do have a lot of like things to bring to the table. And these people are helping me see my strong skill sets that I can use to then go on and be a coach or a mentor or do whatever the things I want to do.
Yeah, there was just like so much, like I had everybody on a pedestal, and I've never really been around millionaires and like people even making like six figures. I had never been around somebody in that type of like mindset. And it was so unbelievable for me. I've seen it online, but my mind couldn't comprehend it. So when I had that intuitive nudge, I think it was more the fear of what if I actually do go, opposed to the fear of not having enough money or not being able to make the payments. I was so scared to step into that. I was scared of being judged. I was scared of being like not accepted. And I think it's important to put those things out, because those were emotions that I was willing to feel. And this jump for me was just amplifying those emotions that I already had and I needed to work through. And the only way you can work through them is if you go through them.
Yep.
So when I got there, again, it was like exactly what you said. Like, I didn't understand how people could have six-figure companies and not know what manifestation was, or the law of attraction, or that their thoughts created their reality. I was like, doesn't everybody know this? Like, I thought that was like a need to know thing in order to make money. So it just blew my mind. And I'm sure you're conscious of this, of like when you're talking about something you're passionate about, you get the stare. You know what I'm talking about?
You get the crazy face. People are like, wow, you're like really like you really are into this. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it is when I used to do hair. People are like, you concentrate so hard. I'm like, I'm in the zone. Like you're just in that zone.
Yeah. And it's 222 my time.
Yay.
Yeah. And I think it was the first place that I felt like I had permission to talk about those things. I had the people who were genuinely interested. There were people who didn't even realize like this whole other world, or that like it was like what I would say would be a missing component of what they were going through. And then vice versa, people who like I was so grateful that they stepped into their power, even if they weren't sure what it was yet. There were so many people there who were like, I don't know what I want to do. That's why I'm here, because I want to get clarity on what my gifts are. This is what I had an idea of what it was going to be. And same for me. I came in like as a makeup artist wanting to teach makeup artists, but eventually started teaching money mindset. And I think that space just really gave me permission to step into that.
Hey, it's RT. Thanks so much for listening to the Fast Foundations podcast. I want to see you in the room. I don't want you to just be hearing my and our voices. Let me tell you about the Fast Foundations Mastermind. It's a 6-month-long program, and it's our signature program. It's how you join our community. Every time we talk about this amazing community of almost 400 people that have gone through our mastermind, that we have here on the podcast, that we hear from, and our mentors, all that kind of stuff, all the guest speakers, the coaches, all the awesome things that we get to do, it all starts with the mastermind. It's a 6-month-long program with two-day in-person events. One's in Scottsdale, one's in Denver. Yes, they're in amazing, beautiful places. We have them in cool spots because that's fun. We also give you 6 months with a coach, one-on-one. And the most important thing is once you go through that mastermind and you learn from all these amazing speakers that we bring in, learn from your coach, grow with me and Jim and the rest of our team, you get lifetime access to our community. Every single thing that we do is recorded and uploaded into a private platform off of Facebook, off of the social medias, all that kind of crap. and it's saved in one place that you have, again, lifetime access to. So when you join the Fast Foundations Mastermind, which you can learn more about at fastfoundations.com and click on Join the Community to apply, when you join this mastermind, you're in our community for life. I really hope to see you in the room, and I hope to talk to you soon.
I know, right? And what a concept to be in the situation you were when you were back in Virginia and like have the mindset kind of coming into San Diego thinking like, it probably was like a reset. I can come be, in San Diego, be whoever I want, and then have the ability to like get your quote unquote kind of like dream job with that makeup team, and then fall into this mastermind and then realize like, oh shit, like this is something I could totally do, teach to makeup artists how to grow 6-figure businesses and do all the things. But there was this thing that I found that I knew, this manifesting part of business that, wait, not everybody knows how to do this. Not everybody understands this concept. They think they have to grind and hustle and just like do things the really hard, sticky way like you did. If you hadn't gone through all that, you couldn't create what you did. You couldn't talk to people who were where you were at before, right? Like if you just came from money, if things were just always so easy and you didn't have to work all the ways that you had to, like you wouldn't be able to coach and teach to the people that you do now, which you're changing so many people's lives by just embracing manifestation around money, because it's such a taboo topic. Even to this day, as much as we try to make it less, it's still something that people don't openly, hey, so how much money you got in your bank account? Oh, I'm dead ass poor this week. How you doing? Like, it's not like what we talk about when we go get coffee. It's the exact opposite almost on social media. It's like, let me look as put together and perfect as possible, but not share with people what's really fucking going on, right? Like it's still kind of so to create a community and a podcast where you have real honest conversations about calling in money into your life, because it's going to give you opportunities to do so many things. So share with us how you created, like, I know you have different programs and things that you've put into play, and you have your own masterminds that you run over the years and stuff that you're doing. So talk to us about where you're at now and all the things that you're doing with people now.
Yeah. Well, it actually started from the experience that I had in Fast Foundations. Everything that we did, just that whole 3 days, I was like, I want to create this. I want to create it. But as soon as I got back, that's literally, I think I got back on the 16th, and the 17th is when everything in San Diego closed down because of COVID. So, like, honestly, if I wasn't in the mastermind, what my impact during that time or what I was doing on a day-to-day basis would have been completely different, because I was surrounded with people who were looking to give. How can we help serve our communities? How can we help give information? And I started hosting like free calls for makeup artists, just telling them about all the resources that we have available, talking about the fear that's coming up, just like really creating that safe space. And then from there, again, I had that moment where I was like, oh, you guys don't know this? And then that's why I started sharing something, and everyone's like, tell me more. And I'm like, it was just this awakening of like, oh, I can teach this. And when I had my coaches in Fast Foundations, we would meet monthly. That's when I launched my first program. They're like, you should create a program. And I was like, I had that idea, but I was like, I don't know how to do it. And so we like kind of got a framework, and they really just held me accountable too, because that was another thing. I was just scared to do it. I mean, logistics is one thing, but it's like once you have the desire and the decision, everything else just kind of, it comes up as you go. So I made my decision, and I launched my first program, and I got 2 people in my program the first time I launched. And I just kept kind of looking at that and seeing what they actually, like, why were they coming to me? What were they learning? What were they implementing? What were they not implementing? And so eventually I just kept teaching, and I was teaching makeup artists. And one day when I was getting ready to launch my program again, I made a video on TikTok about manifesting money, opposed to just like content just for makeup artists. And it went viral. So it went viral. And in that 24 hours that video went viral, everybody kept asking, how do I manifest money? How do I manifest money? How do I manifest money? And I was like, oh, well, I kind of teach this to my makeup artists, and I'm familiar with kind of like how to make a program. So I literally just went online and I made this course in 24 hours, like off the adrenaline. And then it went viral. And then, that was my first like kind of product, teaching money mindset. And then I was like, okay, I'm getting a little bit more comfortable teaching money mindset. and, testimonies were coming in like crazy. But then people were like, okay, I got the money, but I don't feel worthy of receiving it. I can't. Okay, wait, actually, that's not what they said. They said, I can't keep it coming, or I can't manifest more, which is actually feeling worthy of receiving it. And I'm like, oh, duh, that's what I went through too. And so I started another program teaching that. And then my third program, so I have 3 different tiers. And the third program that I'm like implementing all the stuff that I experienced from the mastermind, the safe place, the community, talking about the resources from other people. If I'm not a strong suit in something, I bring on somebody who is my academy, where I teach people how to become coaches, while again implementing all of the fears that come up with it. Fear of being seen, the fear of losing like everything that you've worked so hard to create, and also really just expanding again on your gifts, because we all have those gifts, and it's just a matter of like us taking that screen projector and putting it on ourselves instead.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And you see people talk about creating viral content, and often I think a lot of the stuff that goes viral has nothing to do with really what maybe they're normally talking about or teaching on. And what a shift in your business, though you were talking about it with your current clients and students. It wasn't like the main topic that you were calling people in with, because I'm sure in your courses, in your academy and program, you talk about all the same mindset stuff that you were talking about to the makeup artist before, but it's just more in a manifestation, role of that. And we all have the same insecurities and around keeping and being successful. Like, that's such a normal thing that people deal with. Even, I don't care how far you've made it, quote unquote, like you still deal with some sense of like self-worth issues. Like, we all have them. But to have a podcast where it's a safe space and a community where you constantly like fill people back up as to ways that they could really manifest the shit that they want. It's not just money too. Like, if you can apply it to bringing money into your life, I'm sure you can use the same exact tools to call in whatever it is that you want in your life.
Yeah, that's kind of what my last episode was about, was how abundance isn't just money. It's opportunities. It's people, like the type of people that I have in my life. It's like, what? This is amazing. And experiences, now I'm in New York, I see celebrities and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the only time it's going to happen. And I'm like, wait, no, that's limited. That's scarcity. This is the new norm. So it's like, once you have that abundant mindset, it just applies to all different types in your life.
Right. And like you just said it, so you still think the thought sometimes, but now you just have an awareness around how to recorrect or reframe the thought in your mind. I remember listening to Deepak Chopra talk to Oprah one time about him always being like in a aware state or in like a peaceful meditation state. And she's like, so when someone cuts you off on the freeway, like, you don't get mad? And he was like, listen, like, I'm aware that I just got cut off, but like, I'm also quickly aware to like re-put myself back into that meditative like place of what am I going to do about it, basically, and like keep on with my day. I can let it ruin my day like most people do, or you can reframe. And that's all a lot of this stuff is like having the tools at your fingertips that are now like habits to go about your day. Because like I said in the very beginning, shit happens. Cars break down, stuff happens in your life, like things that you can't really plan for. But if you're set up to have those thoughts not take you out, like, that changes everything. And you stop blocking all the blessings that are trying to come your way.
Yeah, I think and also in our community, we now see those things as good. Like, if that money is coming, because the law of polarity, what goes up must come down. It's always going to be like that. It's going to be a challenge, like challenges that come up. And usually when you're going through a really big shift, they all come up at once. But when you're unaware, which is like, let's say when you're crossing the street and you're just crossing without looking left or right, it can seem so personal that those things are happening to you. Like, why me? And it's so normal. That's why I like to share those things too, because it's like, oh, no, your feelings are valid. Like, this is how we've been programmed in our society, in our generations, our families. But once you are aware, it's like you're looking left and right before you cross the street. And it just makes things so much easier, and you just get to enjoy and get more excited about things that are happening in your life, opposed to just feeling like it's all downhill,
Where it's happening to you, not for you, right? It's hard when you get a series of things that are not in your favor to not take it personal. You're like, well, but shit, But then, like, one thing I always like to remind myself, and me and my girlfriends always like say to each other, in good moments, especially, is like, we get to create this life. Like, we get to create this life. We don't have to. You don't have to have gone viral and created something out of it. You didn't have to help other people through your stories of struggle. Like, you didn't have to do any of that, but you get to. And now, like, all of that stuff that was once something that like held you back is something that you can see in other people. Like, no, like, look at, I did it. You can do it too. And I think it's such a beautiful thing when you don't wait until you feel ready to teach something. Like, you saw a need and you did your best to figure out how to fill it. You didn't wait till you felt ready. You didn't wait till you were making 7 figures to say, I now am a coach that can help somebody. You were like, I figured this little thing out. Like, hey, I'm going to share it. And if it helps people, cool. And then it luckily turned into a business that's now thriving. You've had multiple things go viral on TikTok, especially. Is like, you're so big on TikTok. I love it. And your podcast blowing up. Like, it's like, you get to do that. Like, you created stuff that gave you those opportunities. And I think you and I both started podcasting around the same time when we couldn't work anymore. And I think, especially in our industries, in the beauty industry, like, that we came from, you know, a lot of times people in our industry don't give themselves opportunities to see what else is available with the skill sets that they have. And so, you know, manifestation is one of those things. I think that, you know, again, you get to create whatever you want if you can figure out what that is. So I think sometimes that's hard for people to, like, actually even sit back and think, like, geez, well, what do I actually want? Like, that's a harder question than, like, how do I do it? It's more like, well, no one's really ever asked me, what do I really want? Like, these are just the things I have to do or what I already have. Like, I don't even know what I want.
Yeah. And I think not having clarity on what you want scares people. It's like fear of the unknown. Like, the how does come up a lot. And we've been programmed to like always think about the how. But I think it's also like we have unconscious guilt when it comes to asking for those things, because, well, why would I ask for a new house if I already have a house? I'm already safe. And you think that that's your belief, but it's most likely your generations, right? Maybe it's your parents who migrated from a whole different country. And like, a lot of that stuff is being carried with us and we have no idea. We're like completely unconscious of it. And when you're conscious of it, one, it's like, it feels so heavy. And that's why it feels heavy, because it goes back so far. But when you release it, again, you think it's just you wanting to get a different house, but it's actually you giving someone else who's 27, who has that same, you know, maybe she's Hispanic, maybe same height, doesn't have kids, or, you know, or a mother. Like, you stepping into that is what's giving people more permission to also go after their desires too.
That is so true. So what are some key tips that we can share with the listeners around manifestation so they can go binge listen some more of your stuff? But in order to, maybe manifestation is something that's newer to them. They've heard the term, they've maybe listened to podcasts around it or read books on it, but they haven't really figured out a way to implement it into their life. Like, what are some things that they can start doing right now that might be helpful for them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, the first thing is, again, just consciousness of what you just said, just even being aware, because most people don't even know how big that is. But me from the outside looking in and being like a vortex of people who are just now waking up, it's like, oh, wait, what do you mean my thoughts create my reality? Like, you're already such a step up if you are conscious of that. And I'm not here, I always tell people on social media, I'm not here to convince you that this is true. I'm just here to make you aware. Because once you're aware, again, it's like crossing a street, and it makes life so much easier, so much more fun. And you can be present in each and every part of your process, you know, especially when as an entrepreneur, and really enjoy it. So again, aware that your thoughts create your reality, that anything that's happening in your life right now with money, specifically challenges, don't have anything to do with your external world. They have everything to do with your internal world. So like, if you don't have enough money for rent, and then I know people think it's local crazy, but really, really getting super clear on what that story is, which is, if you break it down, I don't have enough money for rent. I don't have enough. I am not enough. That's actually what it's boiling down to. And if you can then go to, when is the first time in my life, from the ages usually 0 to 7 years old is when we create all of our subconscious beliefs. When's the first time that I believe that I didn't have enough? Or who told me that this was true, or what happened? So in my scenario, my mom, we were at McDonald's late at night. It's like 9 p.m. Like, I always remember this. I was 5 years old. And I was looking at all of the Big Macs and all the menus. And my mom said, Anita, you can't get that because we don't have enough. You have to get something from the dollar menu. So that's where my story started, is that everybody else can have these extravagant, beautiful things, but not me, because I don't have enough. And so then when you can get super clear on what that story is, the step 3 that I tell people is to just feel that. And it's like, you have to be the one to acknowledge it, as if, again, you're looking at that younger self, that little Anita or tiny Jess. It's like, because otherwise it keeps chasing you in different parts of your life until you see it. So when you can feel that and accept that and say, you know what, even if the worst case scenario happened, right? Because we're so scared of something happening that we're actually giving it energy. What if I did get kicked out of my house? What if I had to go back home with my parents? What if I lived on the streets? What if I ran out of food? What if I, didn't have enough? And so you're able to look at that because that's what your mind is doing. It's trying to keep you protected, but you're also able to just find peace there. And once I manifested my house, like my dream apartment, I was always in the park with the homeless people, and like the security guard would come up to me and ask me, it's like, ma'am, are you okay? And I felt like it gave me so much peace of what I was trying to like resist from happening, because I was like, oh wait, I'm safe here too. And I'm safe there and I'm safe here. And then, and only then, you can start thinking of all of the beautiful possibilities, all of the ways that things could happen in the most expansive way that you wouldn't even imagine. And it allows you to have that neutral mindset towards your manifestations, opposed to like needing that, or maybe you get it and then you don't feel worthy of receiving it, you sabotage it, or it just like doesn't really, like it doesn't fill anything. You're looking for it to fill a void and it doesn't. And then when we get depressed, we go down a rabbit hole. So those are the like 4 main things that I would recommend for everybody on here.
Oh my gosh, you guys. And I'm sure no matter where you're at in your journey, and even if manifesting is something you do, you could go back through these different things in life, and whether they apply to money or other things that you want, getting clear around where the stories come from is like the best thing that you can do in order to like make any real changes. Like, because if you don't change it or fix it and you continue to share that message with the next generation, we're not breaking the cycles that we're creating. And our parents did the best they could with what they had. They didn't know there these nice big fancy words like manifestation that wasn't talked about 20, 30, 40 years ago. It was, you did what you freaking had to do to get by, and that's it, period, point blank. And unfortunately, like, they didn't have the tools and resources we have now. So, it can be a big, beautiful world that you get to create and change. And if you don't like where you're at, like, there's people like Anita who have amazing podcasts that share all of this stuff for free on her podcast. So you can binge all of that, the Manifesting Money podcast, and, get all of her good free resources that she has on her Instagram page too. She talks about all of this. But also, yeah, if you are feeling called that this is the kind of work you want to dive into and do, she has those resources for you too. And I couldn't personally recommend her anymore. I've watched you do the work and seen the amazing testimonials from all of your clients that have gone through your courses and your programs and all the things. So thank you for showing up in the way you are and doing what you do. Because I know even though it might be fun in your calling, it's a lot of weight to carry sometimes to really help change this across like generational things. And it makes everybody else that those people are around better for being around them, because they now are the light that's spreading the light up with more people. So it's really awesome, and I'm so grateful for you.
Yeah, thank you. I receive every second of that, especially when people say thank you for stepping into it. It like touches my heart every time, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I did do that. So,
and you are doing it. And I love it's not that we need to stay humble by any means. Like, bragging about, how you're able to help people is, you got to do it in order for people to understand that there's a possibility that they could have what you have. But it's work. It's still a lot of work to carry this like weight. And it's people that accept that challenge and know that they can make a difference, and they step into that gift. You're giving that gift to other people. So, again, I love everything about you. You guys, she's so relatable, and she's such a good, like, energy to be around. Always so positive and fun, and makes the best reels and TikTok shit. So if you need content, go check her. Oh, and good. If you scroll more on her page, you can find some really good makeup tutorials and tips and tricks on that too.
Yeah, I kind of miss doing makeup too, but
I know,
they're
right?
so fun.
I still slang a little bit on the side too, so that's been fun too. Now I just say I only work with people who are doing stuff like you're doing, so I niche down, which is really, really fun. So you can create anything. You're right.
Yeah.
Where can people find you if they do want to hang out? I know you're on Instagram, Manifesting Money podcast, and then is TikTok got a separate name?
So TikTok's the same handle, Manifesting Money Podcast. And then that's the name of the podcast as well. It's like on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple. We do have some on YouTube, but we're shifting to do more live. And other than that, there is a free quiz that my team and I have created. I don't know if I can send this to you, but that quiz helps you identify if you have money blocks, and if you do, what they are. So we've been working on that, and everybody filling it out, and just there's some parts where you can put other. Those things help so much because we're kind of seeing what are the common trends that we see within people. And it just helps us like bring at least awareness to all of the things that are coming up for people who are unconscious of their money blocks. So that's something we've been so excited about.
Awesome. Okay, so you guys go over, take the quiz, see what you've got going on there. And then I know you have a 3-day workshop coming up too. Do you want to share with the peeps about that?
So I have a free workshop. I don't have anything as of this moment coming up. Right now, we're specifically working on merch, which I was just talking about someone today, which is money is energy. I want everybody to be walking around believing money is energy. But we have an event coming up in January here in New York. So that's something that where all of our energy is going to right now.
Awesome. Okay, well, tune in for more. You guys check her out, Manifesting Money Podcast. And stay tuned for all the deets on that. Because, I mean, any excuse to go to New York, I'm like, hello, let's do it. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time on the show, you guys. If you're interested in Fast Foundations, the mastermind, or to learn more, it's fastfoundations.com, where you can check out where our next round is starting. And we look forward to meeting you guys. Have any questions, reach out to us on social and shoot us a DM, say hi, and we'll see you on the next one.